What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the New York Giants have some changes that they need to make if they want to turn the season around, because after a 1-2 start, a really embarrassing first week of the season, of course, we had that thrilling comeback win in week 2, and again, disappointing in week 3. So after this inconsistent start, what do the Giants need to do to get the season back on track and be the winning football team that we believe they could be prior to the start of the regular season? Well, we think that there are some major changes that they could make, so we're going to go ahead and dive into those. But before we do, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are some of the changes that you think the New York Giants need to make to get the season back on track?
I'm doing pretty good looking ahead to week 4 against the Seattle Seahawks, and I'll tell you one thing, guys, at least we're not the Denver Broncos. 70-20. Talk about being demoralized to a degree where your players are after the game saying, like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, that was the ass whooping of a lifetime. The Giants got the brakes beaten off of them, but I'll tell you what, it wasn't that bad, and it doesn't look like it's ever going to be that bad. I think that we're getting better slowly, one step at a time. But, the problems that we're facing right now, in my opinion, Anthony, are more team-wide. Like, it just seems to me that this squad is not inspired very much. You watched the San Francisco 49ers on Thursday night. What did you notice from them? They rally to the football, man. The second you get that ball into your playmaker's hands, whether it's Zay Flowers, or not Zay Flowers, but rather Wan'Dale Robinson, the two short guys getting mixed up, Wan'Dale Robinson or anybody else, you see them just freaking fly at 100 miles an hour to hit that player. And I don't really think the Giants did that against the 49ers. In fact, I know for a fact they didn't. I watched it back. I looked at the numbers. And guys, we've missed 29 tackles in the first 3 weeks of the season. 16 of those came against the 49ers. 16, my friends. That is a number that is almost incomprehensible. The 49ers had 3 missed tackles. If we didn't miss those tackles, let's say if we only had 3 missed tackles, we might have won that freaking game. That's the difference between allowing 9 third down conversions, majority of which were, 5, 10 plus yards. And we missed a lot of tackles, not because of, just form, but because we lacked effort. So those are the 2 keys I want to harp on right off the bat. Bad tackling form and just poor effort from some players. And I think that, I'm going to throw one of the guys that we really like on this podcast, Trey Hawkins, a little bit under the bus right now. There were a couple of attempts where he just didn't even try. Like, there was one attempt against Debo that he got juked out of his shoes. Like, he just dove at his feet. And there was another one where CMC is running through the gap, and Trey Hawkins, he has a chance to fill that gap, and he just dives to the left to his feet, like, just let him run through it. He didn't even look like he wanted to take a hit, didn't even look like he wanted to deliver a hit. And in my opinion, that's soft, man. That's an effort thing. That's a I don't want to get hurt thing. That's a I don't want to put my best foot forward. And the rest of the team sees that, by the way. You saw Micah McFadden explode into the backfield a couple of times and make a couple of really nice tackles. You saw him stuff the gaps. You saw him make some nice plays. Yes, he missed a couple, but it's because he was putting 100% effort in there. He was there. He just missed a couple of them. Trey Hawkins just avoided them. And I think there is an effort thing going on around this team where we're not seeing it to a degree in some respects. And that's concerning to me because that bleeds over. That bleeds over into your captains. That bleeds over into the locker room. That bleeds over into the effort on the field, the momentum of a game. Anthony, what did you see from the past couple of games? Because I think right off the bat, my first 2 problems the Giants have had, most of which have been on defense, and then the third one's a big offensive one. But tackling and effort seem to be lacking in my opinion. I mean, maybe some of you guys disagree, but it certainly has felt like that over the past couple of weeks, aside from that third quarter comeback against Arizona where they felt inspired. So how do we get that version of them back? How do we get that style of Giants team back on the field?
Yeah, I mean, if we could take second half of week 2 Giants and just get that kind of production, that kind of inspiration out of the team in every single quarter of the season, we'll be a damn good football team. But right now, we're not a damn good football team. We're an inconsistent football team struggling to find our identity, which is crazy because the New York Giants last year, it felt like they really did know their identity, knew who they were, knew who they wanted to be, but they look lost right now, and it's very confusing to see such a stark change through the first 3 weeks of this regular season. And for what it's worth, last season, I thought the tackling for most of the year was was really good. But then we got into the preseason, we saw a lot of tackling issues. And we said, okay, well, it's just the preseason. A lot of this is backups missing tackles. Like that one special teams play where they let up the punt return against, I believe that was the Panthers. Or maybe that was week one rather, but whatever. We saw tackling problems in the preseason. We kind of just brushed it off because we assumed by the time the regular season got around it would be fixed. Well, they didn't fix it. And now I'm confused why they didn't fix it, because it was very evident on the tape, on the film, on all the highlights, everything that you saw in our preseason games. The Giants were terrible at tackling. So now we're in the regular season and we're still terrible at tackling. So it's not just the backups were playing bad. It's now the whole team is playing bad defensively and struggling to tackle and make plays on the ball. So what's the solution there? I don't really know. I think it's a lot of practice. I think it's a lot of a mindset thing, effort, like you said, Alex. But Wink Martindale defenses are usually great and usually great at tackling. So right now they're not, and that's very confusing to me. Wink Martindale needs to fix this. I do think that he will, because he is Wink Martindale. He's been one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL for years, and he's never really had teams with just severe tackling problems like this in the past. But there is something to be said about the fact that this whole defense, like every level of it, is struggling with tackling right now. Like you're talking about an edge rusher like Kayvon Thibodeau is struggling to tackle, and then you get to the next level, you got linebackers struggling to tackle, then you go to the next level and you have safeties struggling to tackle. So it's really all across the board. It's not like it's just the secondary is bad at tackling. The secondary in particular is extremely bad at tackling, but so are the linebackers, and so is the defensive line. It's just a mess right now. So tackling is really killing the Giants, and I think a lot of it might have to do with the fact that the Giants are being very aggressive. They blitz like 85% of the time against the San Francisco 49ers in week 3. That's an absurd number, and what that does, oftentimes, it does gas your defense. Like we've been talking about Xavier McKinney putting in minimal effort and not tackling well. He's also pressuring or getting blitzed a lot. Like he's blitzing into the backfield, just going on full-on sprints towards the quarterback and then running into offensive linemen. That definitely wears and tears at a safety. So there might be something to be said about that, and I've been saying this for the last few episodes. I think the Giants' defense is a little bit too complex right now. They need to start simplifying some things, like dropping Kayvon Thibodeau back into coverage. Maybe let's not do that. Let's just have him put his hand in the dirt and battle it out with a tackle as a pass rusher for an entire game, so he doesn't get that wear and tear and can make those tackles. I think there's many factors going into this, but right now it's up to Wink Martindale to figure out what the solution is, because there's got to be a solution to this. The Giants were not this bad at tackling last year, and I don't think that this team is it lacks that much talent that none of these guys can just tackle. There's got to be some sort of common denominator here, and I think Wink Martindale is going to do his research, find out what it is, and I think that it might be the over-aggression in terms of the blitzing. Like you have Jason Pinnock blitzing at a pretty frequent rate right now, and then missing some tackles on the back end. Maybe a little less blitzing, a little bit more staying back in coverage will help him fix his pursuit angles and not get so tired and make better tackles. I don't know, but that's just a working theory that I have, and I'm hoping that Wink Martindale maybe scales back the blitzes and the complexity of this defense just a little bit to see if that helps with fatigue and helps with tackling. But also effort comes into play here. Now they're putting in all that effort on these blitz packages, but the blitzes aren't getting home. So are they? I'm not sure. But we're also not just seeing those hustle plays, those real effort plays like we saw last year. Like Alex, when we saw the New York Giants versus the Washington Commanders last year, not only did we see Wink Martindale drop Kayvon Thibodeau back in the coverage, he makes an effort play to stop Taylor Heineke on the goal line and win the Giants the game, but there were also other moments last season where you would see Thibodeau start on the right side of the defensive line of scrimmage, make his way all the way 30 yards up the left side of the field to make a tackle on a running back who broke away. We haven't seen that from Thibodeau this year. In fact, we've seen him get double teamed by a tight end and a tackle and just kind of give up on the pass rush. So what's going on? Does the team just not believe in this defensive coordinator anymore? Did Wink Martindale do something to upset his players? I don't know, but it's really crazy just to see the difference in mindset and motivation from these players, because they don't look inspired like they did last year. They looked so inspired last year, making all of those effort plays, and this year we haven't seen them, even offensively. On the offensive side of the ball, I feel like we haven't seen any play that just wows you in terms of effort. Like, wow, you saw that player really lunge out for that. Maybe a few from Darius Slayton. I think we've seen him put in some serious effort, like that one hand-hit catch that he made out of bounds on the deep ball from Daniel Jones against the Cardinals. We've seen a few of those effort plays, but they're not showing up enough, and particularly on the defensive side of the ball, we're really not seeing them at all. So Alex, I don't know what your take is on it, whether you think maybe it's a coaching issue or an identity issue, whatever, but there is something wrong with the Giants' effort right now because it's seriously lacking.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to sit here and generalize everybody and throw everyone into the same kind of group here. Like, for example, Dexter Lawrence, effort. Like, good job, Dexy. You have been excellent. You are exempt from any criticism. Micah McFadden in this most recent game, effort. Loved that. Like, keep that up. Play with your hair on fire, man. Like, he took the criticism and he took it personally. You know what I mean? Like, he just said, like, Xavier McKinney, I don't know if you guys saw the comments, and, Anthony, you just wrote about it like an hour ago. What Xavier McKinney said about the tackling compared to what Micah McFadden, night and day differences. McKinney was like, I'm not worried about the tackling, and McFadden said, I got to clean it up and get better and, like, do a better job of that. Like, two different mentalities there. So, McFadden, like, I appreciate that, man. Like, kudos to you for taking responsibility, playing hard. Yes, you missed a couple tackles, but you also made some really nice plays, and you left it on the football field. I can respect that. Like, I can sit here and say, like, I can respect that. I want to see more of you because of that. McKinney has had back-to-back games where have been a little bit questionable, right? Like, we've seen, for example, I don't know, the Dobbs, trying to strip the football on the goal line. Just stop him, man. Let everybody else rally to the football and try to get that thing out. But if you just kind of hit him and he doesn't do anything, and he's running right through you, you're not helping anybody. Like, how many times have we seen a team stop a guy a yard or two short of the goal line and they can't punch it in, right? Like, just give your defense a chance. Instead, he just tries to go for the big play and he gets beat because of it. Last week, I mean, he was getting dragged around by Deebo Samuel like it was nothing. And look, Deebo does this to everybody. This isn't an excuse, but he's going for the fumble. You're not going to make Deebo Samuel fumble, man. Like, you got to wrap him up and hold him so you can get some guys to rally to the football. I mean, I saw Adoree Jackson get dragged like 10 yards before anyone came to help him. And it was Bobby Okereke, and I'll say that too. Okereke has put in effort. Respect to Bobby Okereke. He's played decently well. Yes, he's missed a couple tackles, but he's cleaning up plays. Like, he rallies to the football, and I can respect that. But the thing is, there's an issue here, Anthony, that's getting a little bit, I don't really know how to diagnose it, because normally you see like those high effort guys put in the effort and people kind of replicate that. Like, players see that and they try to replicate that. It's not really happening. It feels a lot of like individual problems, right? Like, there's some guys putting in all the effort. Like, Leonard Williams played well in week 3, or he played better. He didn't look so ghastly, for example. He actually stepped up and made some plays. But I'll say this. Why is it that some individual players are not putting in maximum effort or really giving it their all, and others are? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on there that this isn't a team thing? Why is it an individual thing? To me, that says there's a coaching problem. That says there's something going on with the coaching, whether it's they're confused, they're demoralized, they're lacking motivation, the captains aren't stepping. It could be a myriad of reasons, but I'll tell you right now, I just don't know exactly how to put my finger on the pulse of what the issue is in terms of the effort. The tackling, you can fix that, right? Good, just better form. Just better form. Let your guys rally to the football, rally to the ball carrier, and you can make stops that way. But 3rd and long, getting beat, they've given up. Anthony, this is a crazy thing. I did the math this morning. A little bit over 48% of their 3rd downs this year on defense have resulted in a conversion to first down. Almost 50%. If you're giving up first downs on a 50% clip on 3rd downs, you're never getting off the freaking field, bro. Your offense is screwed before you even try. Look at the 49ers. They had like 30 minutes of possession compared to us. You can't win football games this way, man. You can't win it. It's just it's tough. So I'll tell you this right now. Something's got to change. These guys got to play like their careers are on the line, like their season's on the line. They got to show up every day and say, like, this is an opportunity, man. Like, this is gratitude, just for being in the NFL, like for being able to play a game for a living, to be able to step up and actually, make millions of dollars to play a game. You have to have some gratitude sometimes and say, wow, like, I'm really lucky. I got to play like I've earned this. And I think some guys do and other guys aren't showing that just yet. I don't really know the reasoning behind Hawkins giving up on some of those tackle attempts. Banks even was trying to hit guys high, and I'm like, dude, you're not big enough to take Deebo Samuel down by the freaking shoulders. You know what I mean? Like, you got to go for his legs. You got to trip him up. You got to hold his freaking legs so someone else can come help you. Going after his upper body, he's going to bounce off of you. This is what Deebo does. Like, have they not done the film work? Have they not watched Deebo Samuel? I guarantee you they have. Like, you have to know this. You got to be better in that regard. And I'll say this, Micah McFadden, the tackles he did miss were around the waist, around the legs. Like, he's proper. The technique is good. They're just slipping out of his tackles. He's just there a second too late sometimes. I can give him the benefit of the doubt on those, and I can say, okay, like, I watched it back. Like, this looks better, especially compared to week 2 where he missed 4 tackles. Like, he got, like, objectively better. But Anthony, what is your take on the individualness of this situation? It seems like some guys are going balls to the wall and other guys just simply aren't. And I think that is more of a coaching problem. I just don't know how to diagnose it.
It's difficult to diagnose because we're not in the locker room. Like if we were in the locker room, we were one of these players, I'm sure they have their opinions, right? Because they see it too. There's no way that some of these players who are putting in that maximum high octane effort, like a Dexter Lawrence, absolutely he sees some of these players not putting in the same level of effort as him. Now, I don't know what his opinion on it is, but he's got to have one. And all of these Giants players have to be feeling a type of way over their defense's performance through the first 3 weeks because we're seeing, again, just such a big difference between the effort level from last season to this season. So the individuality of it, you see players like Dexter Lawrence who are doing their best despite getting paid, right? Like sometimes you see players get that big payday and they kind of just phone it in from there on. That's not what you're seeing with Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence is still the elite sexy Dexy that he always has been. He's still balling out and doing his thing. But then you see other players like Xavier McKinney. This one's confusing to me because his effort level on some of these tackles seems like it's lacking. His ability to tackle is definitely lacking because he's been missing tackles at a higher rate than he ever has in the past. So what's the issue there? Now, he hasn't gotten paid. He's a player that needs to ball out this season in order to get a solid payday this upcoming offseason. So the fact that he's not playing well and he also looks like he's not putting in the highest amount of effort, well, that's just confusing to me because this is a guy who needs to be putting in maximum effort. But at the same token, maybe it's the contract that's annoying him. Maybe he's annoyed by the fact that the Giants don't want to negotiate with him until the end of the year. Maybe there could be something to that. I'm not exactly sure. It's really tough to project what the problem is for all of these certain players. All that I know is that the players are not doing a good enough job and they need to do better. So whatever the issue is, it really is up to Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale to find the problem and solve it. Now, it's not just Wink Martindale. We've been talking about Wink Martindale a lot, whether it's a coaching problem or not, but it is on Brian Daboll as well. He is the guy who leads the entirety of this team. He's head coach. He needs to get to the core of these problems and find the solution if Wink Martindale is unable to. So I'm calling upon Brian Daboll, like be the elite leader that we know that you are. We talked to Bobby Okereke earlier in the offseason. He said he came to the New York Giants because of Brian Daboll. Who else said the same thing? Paris Campbell. Who else said the same thing? Bryce Ford Wheaton turned down offers from 2 other teams to sign with the Giants practice squad instead as an undrafted free agent. So you had a lot of players who came to New York, Darren Waller as well, because of Brian Daboll. So Brian Daboll needs to be the guy to solve these issues, in my opinion. Like when we're talking about the defensive effort and the missed tackles and, the lack of participation from some of the guys in the defense, well, Brian Daboll needs to be the one to recognize these things as well and go out there, have a heart-to-heart with some of these players, figure out what the problem is, and fix it. And that's why I still have some hope in this team. I don't like to be a total pessimist when we do these episodes. We're talking about 3 things that the Giants need to change, 3 major problems that they have. But I'll also go ahead and say that there are solutions out there, and I still do trust in Brian Daboll to find those solutions. He was the coach of the year last year for a reason. He was the guy that inspired this team to be the underdogs who went into Minnesota and win their first postseason game in over a decade. So I still do believe in Brian Daboll. The honeymoon period might be over with this coaching staff, but there is still a level of trust and confidence that I have in the head coach. So I'm trusting that he will find the solution to this problem, get the Giants' effort level back to maximum quality, and get their tackling abilities back to the maximum quality. So Brian Daboll, I think, is the key to everything with this New York Giants team. Their success really relies on him and the way that he coaches and inspires this squad. So hopefully Brian Daboll does see these things that we see as problems and fixes them. But there's also another problem, Alex. We've talked a lot about the defense, but there's also a massive glaring problem on the offensive side of the ball, and it is the offensive line. I mean, what a disaster this has been. Now, part of this I can't really blame on the players. There's so much changeup going on. There's injuries, there's benchings, there's weird decisions to start players like Shane Lemieux instead of other guys. It's been a little bit of a mess. Part of it, I think, is coaching. Part of it is talent level. And a lot of it, to me, is a lack of continuity. Now, week 4, the Giants will have their 4th starting offensive line combination. But that's a good thing because they're getting Andrew Thomas back into the unit, which is huge. That's going to be a huge boost. And they should be also getting Ben Bredesen back. So maybe this problem gets solved soon. Maybe those 2 getting back in the lineup really helps boost this unit and make it a better unit. But right now, the offensive line is arguably the number 1 problem that the New York Giants are facing. How do they solve it? Do they bring in reinforcements? Justin Pugh is an option for them. Maybe they make a trade at the deadline for an offensive guard or somebody else. I'm not sure. But the offensive line, Alex, is a real issue. What are you seeing from the unit and how do you think they fix it?
How do I think they fix it, man? If I had the answer to that, I'd be freaking GM of the Giants. But I'll tell you right now, well, first things first, stay healthy. Like, that would go a long way. Andrew Thomas coming back and Ben Bredesen coming back, like, that would be a really good start, just at least giving some reassurance to the left side of the line. I really like John Michael Schmitz. I think he's our guy for a long time. Right guard, Marcus McKethan, we'll see how it goes. He's getting a little bit better. He at least held his own to a degree. Against the 49ers, Evan Neal looked a lot better. I know he tweaked his ankle, but he should be fine. So, right now I'm sitting here kind of asking myself, these guys just need to stay healthy so they can gel. That's really my priority right now. It's been really bad because we have, for example, Evan Neal, who's a second-year player, struggling. Marcus McKethan, who's coming off an ACL tear and essentially is a rookie. John Michael Schmitz is a rookie. Shane Lemieux is, for lack of a better word, one of the worst guards I've ever seen play the sport. And left tackle is Josh Azudu, who's essentially a rookie playing at left tackle. How do you expect these guys to succeed? And people are arguing on Twitter well, if we had Patrick Mahomes, he'd still be really good. He makes these throws. And I'm like, bro, Patrick Mahomes is the best freaking quarterback in the game. Yeah, he's going to make the Giants offense better, but the point here is that our offensive line will make him worse. No matter, even if it's slightly or significantly, it will make him worse. And that's objectively true. So any quarterback would struggle in this. The problem is Daniel Jones isn't Justin Herbert. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not top 5 in the NFL. He needs things to work around him for him to play at a high level. But we've seen what happens when he can get things to work around him. He can play at a level that can win you games, really big games. If everybody else plays well around him, he can win big games for you. That's what we've seen. Now, the problem is it's really hard for everything to always be working around you in the NFL because there's injuries, there's inconsistencies, there's poor roster construction to deal with, and the Giants ultimately have a little bit of a roster problem because this is only the second year in a rebuild essentially. The offensive line is still going through major changes and they have basically no chemistry together, and they have injuries at the same time. So it's the perfect storm for sucking, and Daniel Jones can't put his best foot forward, and he's not the type of quarterback that's going to suddenly elevate you from the dead, when you're all hope is lost. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not that good, but again, people act like it's so freaking easy to find Patrick Mahomes, dude. It's pissing me off lately. You find Patrick Mahomes once in a generation, right? Once in a generation. Why do people think it's so easy? Well, Patrick Mahomes could do it if he was on our offense. No shit. He's one of the best quarterbacks to ever live. He probably will go down as that. You know what I mean? Daniel Jones is not one of the best quarterbacks to ever live. You know what I mean? It's so annoying to have to compare apples to oranges. We know what he needs to succeed, Daniel Jones. It's objective, and it's really clear and obvious. He needs protection in the pocket. He needs some good weapons, and he can make things happen. The problem is the Giants do not protect the pocket. They have no pass protection when half our guys are always injured. Our new offensive weapons, half of them are brand new. Jalen Hyatt, Darren Waller, Paris Campbell. Wandale played half a season, barely. Sterling Shepard's been more injured than on the field. There's a lot of new things here. They are talented, objectively on paper, but sometimes that doesn't ultimately just hit the ground running. So I think that right now, Andrew Thomas, Ben Bredeson coming back will really help us just get some more reps together in the offensive line, some chemistry building, some gelling. I think that will go a long way towards just helping this roster entirely, or this offense. But, for now, we're going to have to suffer without them if they can't play in week 4. And that's really unfortunate, and it's really bad for us. But that's kind of the reality. If you look at other teams, backup offensive linemen are hard to come by. Good backup offensive linemen. Not many teams have good backups. If you look at the good teams in the league right now, they have their offensive lines are pretty solid. Now I keep seeing this narrative, Anthony, and it's pissing me off because people are well, Justin Herbert was blitzed on 82% of his dropbacks, but he put 400 yards and 3 touchdowns on the field, and Daniel Jones was blitzed on 82% of his dropbacks. Do people not understand that blitzed and pressured are two different things? You know what I mean? Being blitzed and being pressured are two different things. Think about this, guys. Wink Martindale's blitzing more than any defensive coordinator in the league, but we can't freaking pressure the quarterback, right? Two different things. So if you're on that narrative, you're comparisons, look at blitzed percentages, it's irrelevant, doesn't equal pressures. So, that's kind of what I'm trying to say is the numbers, people just run with these arbitrary numbers and make up narratives, and it's bro, you look like an idiot. You don't even know what you're talking about. So when it comes to Daniel Jones, people comparing him to Patrick Mahomes is stupid because Patrick Mahomes, we can't compare him to anybody. You know what I mean? Except for Tom Brady when he was in the league and playing at his prime. Patrick Mahomes is a freaking alien. It's tough, to sit here and I try to defend Daniel Jones. But I also have to acknowledge if the line is playing relatively well and he's not stepping up and he's not playing at a high level, the blame gets distributed evenly to the people who deserve it. You know what I mean? Like the problem is the NFL is a week by week game. It's not a game where you can generalize things every single, for like what happens in 1 week is not what happens in a full season. Every single week, the blame gets distributed differently. Last week on Thursday, it was the offensive line, guys. He was pressured more than any other quarterback. And then you also have to consider the fact that most of those guys are essentially rookies. And, the 49ers have an elite defense. Like it was just a match made in hell for us. However, things that we can control, Anthony. Tackling form and effort. Those are two things that we can control. We can't control injuries. They happen. But we can control effort. And I feel as though the Giants, some guys on this team don't give 100% effort, and that's inexcusable. There should be guys right behind them willing to take their spot and give everything they have. And if that's the case, if you're Brian Dable and you're telling all of us you have to earn your spot on this team, and there are guys on film not giving 100% effort, you are not playing next week. And that should be the reality. You have the gift of playing a game for millions of dollars, and I feel as though the effort should be there because of that gratitude alone, let alone anything else. So I don't know. I know I just went on a pretty long rant. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm just frustrated over years of this, and like we're so excited going into this season to see this team just lack effort of all things. That really hurts. Like that really hurts as a fan base. So that I'll kind of end my rant there with that.
Yeah, and what I'll say, though, about the offensive line, my opinion, how the offensive line gets better, how does this get fixed? It's by having the same starting offensive line in Week 5 that you have in Week 4, in Week 6 that you have in Week 5. To me, it's really about continuity. Let's see if the New York Giants can get their best 5 on the field for a full game and keep it that way for the rest of the regular season. Continuity is so key here, and it's not only because, you want the players to continue to develop throughout the season, it's also because of communication. We've seen a lot of communication issues on the right side of the offensive line between Evan Neal and Mark Lewinsky. And then they have another rotation here at the right guard spot. Let's find the best right guard who lines up next to Evan Neal and get them knowing each other, get them communicating well, and get them building a chemistry for the rest of the season. There's something to be said about chemistry on the offensive line. Even about the center position with John Michael Schmitz. He's trying to call out plays and call out protection, say slide this way, guys, slide that way, guys, max protect this way, guys. He's trying to make all these play calls from the offensive lineman standpoint as the center, as a rookie, but yet he's communicating with new guys every single week, and I know that injuries play a part in this, but if the Giants can just get this offensive line healthy, then they need to stop making so many changes to it. Once it's healthy, lock in that starting 5 and stop making so many changes. Right now, this has looked like a preseason for the New York Giants, a lot of experimenting, a lot of miscues, mental lapses. Let's fix all that. This is no longer the preseason. You've had 3 regular season weeks to get all this stuff ironed out, but now going into week 4 with this extended stay, or this extended break after the Thursday night game and into a Monday night game, the Giants are blessed to have such a long break right here. It's basically like getting a second bye week on their schedule. So this is the time to iron this stuff out. Once all of these offensive linemen are healthy, get the best 5 on the field and keep them on the field. Even if one of them starts to struggle, I don't want to see a rotation. I don't want to see him pulled out of the lineup for somebody else wanting to take a chance on a guy like a Shane Lemieux again. No, get your best 5 that you think are the best 5 right now. Get them playing together throughout the entirety of the season, keeping continuity, gaining chemistry, and developing all together. I think that's really crucial for this unit. It's been a real struggle through 3 weeks. Daniel Jones is on his ass and on his face nearly every single freaking play. I don't want to see that happen anymore. I don't like seeing Nick Bosa go unblocked and just demoralizing the whole fan base while he hits Daniel Jones nearly for a safety. I don't want to see any more of that. I think the Giants just need to find their best 5, put them on the field, keep them on the field, keep them healthy, give them breaks at practice if you need to. Whatever you got to do, just get your best 5 offensive linemen on the field at all times and let them get this continuity and chemistry going. That's, in my opinion, how they've solved that problem. I know it's easier said than done, way easier said than done. If it was that easy, the Giants would have had it done 10 years ago. But here we are a decade later, and the New York Giants offensive line is still struggling. So that's my take on how they fix it, or at least how they improve it. Now, it's not going to be 100% fixed. Of course not. The Giants don't have that much talent on the offensive line if we're being blunt about it. But there are ways that they can improve it, make it better for Daniel Jones. And I think that keeping the continuity is really the key variable here in terms of improving this unit for the rest of the season. So there's a lot of problems on this New York Giants team right now, but there are also a lot of solutions. There are positives. This was a pretty pessimistic episode, but there are reasons for optimism. I still think that we're waiting on that real breakout from Darren Waller, from Jalen Hyatt as well. Saquon Barkley is expected to be back from injury way sooner than expected. He's supposed to play this upcoming week. Initially, it thought he could miss 3 games. Now he might only miss 1, so that's another positive. There are positives with this New York Giants team, guys. We are only 1-2. We're not 0-3. I know it doesn't sound like a huge difference, but believe me, that is a huge difference. 1-2 versus 0-3 is a massive difference in the grand scheme of things for an NFL regular season. So there's still hope. I still believe in our New York Giants to turn it around because Brian Daboll is still the head coach of the New York Giants. So, of course, we're going to continue to let you guys know all of our updates and opinions on this team throughout this week as the Giants prepare to play the Seattle Seahawks next Monday night. But make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we will catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.